Hello, my name is Joel, and I'm going to be doing a ring today. My goal will be to actually take a brass ring and a silver ring, and I'm going to solder them together to create a kind of cool half and half. And I might make one a little thicker and one thinner. Today's first video, part one here, is going to talk more about the materials I'm going to work with and show you some of the tools that I've been doing. I'm just started out, so I'm pretty new. Just taking a lot of my skills I've learned from other areas in the field and kind of been watching a lot of videos and reading a lot of material and trying to learn how to do this because I've really enjoyed kind of working the hands, the materials, a lot of fun. So I'm going to show you some of the materials here that I have. The first thing here I'm going to be using is this brass sheet, and I can show you kind of what that is. This is a 14 gauge 6x12. I've been buying these materials if you're looking. Sometimes it's hard to find resources on everything because you can use Amazon for some of the things, but I have found that Rio Grande, they're based, that's their website, and they have some pretty great breakdowns of materials. It's pretty easy to ship. If you what kind of country you're on, they're a little faster or slower. So this is what this looks like. You can see that this my first cut was not very good. The first time I used this. Here you can see that. You can see my first cut learning how to use the saw was not very good. I've learned a lot since then. I found that using a finer sawtooth blade makes it a lot easier. So this is kind of the jewelry saw here. And I'm using a much finer blade. I believe this is a 03. So what I've read is you want at least a couple blades touching the material at all times. So in this case, definitely the thinner is better. And it got some tension on there, which is nice. And so I'll be cutting this later, doing a cleaner cut. Maybe I'll sand this first with a file, or I just might cut a little material off. This isn't too expensive. It's not $14 for this piece here. I want to show you some of the other materials that I'm working with. One thing I want to show is kind of a thickness. That's one area that I found that I've been struggling sometimes, is to kind of gauge what material feels like for what you're getting. So this is a 14 gauge. Set there, which is approximately, let's see, try to make sure it's nice and flush, about 1.7 millimeters thick. So that gives you kind of an idea of how thick that is. I did this, one of my first rings that I did, as using, this is the one I actually made with the material here. See that? So this is what I used. So I did a kind of a nice little peen hammerfish. This is my first test. Came out pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. See if it's pretty good. So I'm gonna do kind of something similar as this one, but I plan on adding a silver band next to it and then soldering together, and then actually doing the hammered finish on both. So that's the plan anyway. We shall see how it works out. But to give you an idea, so I started out with this as 1.7, and after all the sanding and everything, actually it's not as thin as I thought. I measured it, so I'm kind of guessing here. About 1.53 there. So only lost a little bit of material depth, but that's pretty thick. I wouldn't actually go much for ring, at least for me, my personal taste. I wouldn't go much thicker than that. I kind of like this one actually has a nice little feel to it. It doesn't feel too thick. I know some people like thicker materials and some like thinner. I definitely could go thinner on this, and I wouldn't mind that. I probably will go thinner on my final product to hair. I'll probably make it down to like 1 millimeter. These are some silver bands that I made. Should have brought those over earlier. These are some silver bands that I made. Let me see what these are at. So this one's at 2 millimeters. So yeah, that's kind of on the thicker. I still think it's kind of on the thicker end there. I know I kind of sanded these thinner. Yeah, pretty good though. So here's what they only fit my pinky. This one's too. So yeah, pretty cool though. These are actually really easy to make. So during this process, I think you're gonna find that it's not as hard as you think it is. You don't need all the tools. So kind of the main things that I have come to find is you definitely want, well, and you don't even need, actually, even the saw here, you don't really need. This is, instead of using a brass sheet here, put this to the side, right here. I was gonna show you this too. One thing that I found that's really cool, that I've been doing for a while now, is you can just go buy old cigar boxes from a lot of times cigar bars or cigar stores, and sometimes they'll just give it to you for free. Sometimes they'll like charge you $1 or two, but they're actually really great boxes to put stuff in. I use them all the time for gear, little things you don't want to lose. You know, they're light, they're pretty much free, and you can put stuff in them, which organization is great. So here's some of the different materials that I've kind of been stocking together. So this is a solder. This is the bronze solder here. That there, I'll put the tag there so you can kind of see that. It's bronze solder. This is also some bronze solder. Wire. Let's clip off a little clip of it when I'm doing the soldering. I'll probably end up using the bronze. I have to double check. I think the bronze has a higher melting tip. I gotta double check that than the silver, which to me will be a better, stronger seam, at least in my opinion. This is also a bronze wire. They're actually pretty much the same. I just brought them to see if they're in different colors, and they both seem pretty solid. This is some half round wire. So one of the things that sometimes, from my experience so far, is they'll use the terminology wire, but this is what you can actually make the rings out of. So if you're trying to just make a really simple, basic silver ring like this, you can actually just buy this wire, and this is probably about, this is 8 gauge half round. I believe this only cost me like $5, $6, something like that. You know, $10 shipping or something like that. Relatively expensive. So pretty much you can make a ring like this for pretty inexpensive material wise. Obviously, there's the time to learn and all that kind of thing that adds the value of what it is. But if you're looking to do it yourself, it's actually quite easy. So there's a half round there. These are the different solders for silver. So I have 3 that I have here. So I have the hard, the easy, and the medium. So the hard is where you want to start. This has the highest melting temp. I believe this is around 1800 degrees. So, and then you have your medium, which is in between obviously, but this has a lower melting temp. I think it's like 1700 degrees. It's a little bit less. And then you have your easy, which is even less for that. So you'd want to start working a piece depending on the setup. Start with the hottest, move down to the medium, and then move to the easiest if you have to go that far. That way you're not melting the material ahead of yourself. Here are some more sizes. This is some round wire. This is 12 gauge. Just get an idea there. Next we have some more half round. Half rounds are pretty cool because you get this kind of nice bezel on the outside and you're not having to sand if you want this kind of rounded outside the ring. This is a nice, this 6 gauge here is a pretty thick ring. I'm probably not going to use this specifically for the ring I'm putting together, but for just a single ring, for kind of a larger gentleman's ring, it's a good size. Because generally women seem to like the more petite rings on their fingers. Obviously it's not a rule, it's whoever you like it. So if you like it a little thicker, it's cool. The rectangle wire here, let's see if you can see that. This is more of a, let's see, just a rectangle shape. This is a 3x1. I have a thinner one I think I'll be using for the one my project coming up here. But I'm looking forward to play with this stuff as well. Let's see, we have some round wire. This is some thin stuff. This is 20 gauge. This is what I hope to use for some ring bezels or some setting designs later in the future. And this is the square wire, 14 gauge. I think this is actually the wire I'm going to be using for our product later. Give you an idea, let's see. Call it this is square, so let's see what it comes out to. I'm trying to share, I know it's kind of rambling, but I'm just trying to share some of the stuff that I struggled with. Just kind of look at different materials. If you want some more videos on this, please let me know. Because I have no problem trying to like show what I have. So this one's about 1.9. Let's see what square it is. About the same, yeah, it's pretty square, about 1.9 by 1.9 millimeters. So this is the material I plan on using with the brass. Or actually, yeah, the brass. And then I have another piece here. This is a 4x1 millimeter rectangle wire. So you can see I kind of bought these on from Rio Grande. So they have a good supply of materials. And so yeah, you can see this is why I actually have this little box, is what I actually am doing is just putting these little bags, especially for the smaller material, in here. Fit. And so that's kind of the organizational side. And I've been saving all the scrap pieces. I have a little container that I use. I actually use little tea containers. They're just little tiny pieces. I'll leave out the solder. We'll use some of that. So I found that, a lot of times you can save yourself a lot of money by reusing the pieces of, things that you might not think are needed, but you can actually use them. So that's some of the wires. Actually, I have another piece here. So this is the larger piece there. This little piece here is actually some silver strip, and this is, so I don't say it correctly. This is some 22 gauge dead soft silver, sterling silver. So I use this for a ring bezel. Hold a diamond on there. I can show it to you later. It came out really good. It's my first diamond setting, and it came out really good. This is pretty good stuff to work with. It's amazing how strong the material actually is. In general, it's pretty flexible, but when you start kind of work hardening it and work on those smaller scales, it's kind of like that little tip becomes very sharp and really quite strong in the scale of it. So there's all that material. So yeah, here is going to be our material there. I have my solders out. We'll do that later. We'll show you how to cut that. Micrometer. That's just kind of so I can say. So I found this was really great because you kind of mark things. It gives you kind of a nice way to describe materials. The only things you really need though in this process would be the solder. The other thing you want to have is at least 2 pairs of pliers. These are jewelry pliers. What makes these kind of different is they have no, let's see, I can show this video here. They have no grips here, like a normal kind of has that file texture here. On a lot of times pliers, this keeps marring the metal, which is obviously important because you don't want to have to sand those things out and remove material, because obviously depending on the amount of value of the material, the more you lose. So something like this is, $1 worth of material, but probably less than that, even less, 50 cents. But if this was solid gold, penny weight's $50, I think it is. So something like this would be $1,000 type of pure or 18 karat gold. Could be off on those measurements. That's just kind of an estimate based on what I know in my head. I think an ounce, to give you an idea, an ounce, I think there's between, I think it's 14 penny weight. You can look this up with penny weight. I think there's 14 penny weight or 16 per ounce, and I think an ounce of gold's up $1,400 depending on the daily market. So there's a lot of value there. But yeah, so you want a pair of pliers. These were some really inexpensive ones. I bought these on Amazon. I plan on upgrading these here in the near future though, because so if you want to spend a little more on these, I would actually recommend spending a little more. I bought kind of a set that I just got on there. Here, I'll show you what the package came with. It like 6 of these came in the package, so they're not bad. But I definitely know that when you're torquing on some stronger stuff, trying to bend it, they give a little more flex than I like, and so I like to see some more expensive ones that don't have that flex. The other thing you want to have is a little torch. So this is just a standard little like creme brulee torch. Buy these at Lowe's, Home Depot, anywhere, home supply stores. This is one of the, I think this was like $30. I like this one because you can lock the thing on. Oops. I don't know if I love the safety feature on it, but it's nice because you can heat up the area. You can always use larger torches. I have some larger ones I use for actually melting the material if I want, but I found this one gives me a lot of control, especially on the smaller rings and getting in there. The other thing you want that is pretty much necessary is some files. I have some relatively inexpensive ones and some more expensive ones. Let's see, they're over here somewhere. Oh yeah, right here, under this press. So about these, I think these are like $20. Some diamond needle files. These just help sand out materials. The biggest one that I think that you'd want, if you're just going to buy one, because you can buy one, is this one here. And this one is the half round and half round and then flat. So it has this flat side here and round. So that works inside the ring. So if you're working inside the ring, it lets you without creating points, and then you're outside you can work with this. So this one is probably the most important shape that I've worked with so far. There's probably other shapes I'm going to deal with. The round, a straight round one too is also quite nice, but if there's one shape that I would say grab this one first, especially on smaller simple rings without getting more complicated, that's the one I would get there. The other thing that you want is a ring mandrel for sizing, because if you don't know what size you're working with, it's pretty much worthless because you're either guessing. And then, if you're trying to size yourself or somebody else, you have the little ring sizers. So those are like a couple dollars on Amazon or wherever you can find them. Amazon's pretty easy for most people nowadays, so I just recommend that. Sometimes things are hit and miss, so kind of play with it. I like the metal ones over plastic. That's personal preference. I don't know if there's a good or bad. This though, I definitely like the metal one because you can hammer on it, and I'll probably get another one in the future to use as a sizer one, and then use this one because it might wear off the material of it, and use it as just for hammering. The other thing you want to have is either a little rubber mallet, Raha mallet, and I have a bigger one from Home Depot that I can use on this as well. And this just lets you hit the material without scarring it, so it lets you get a perfect circle. Because once you start soldering this, you'll understand more. But those are kind of the main tools I think that are really pretty much most valuable. The other one you can do because you'll heat up the material is the pickle, but you can also use, I think there you can just use vinegar and salt and scrub it off too. So if you don't want to do the pickle solution, which I'll detail that more in the future, you can also just use I think the vinegar salt mix, and I think someone adds something else to that. But there's some like home remedy ones you can use. I haven't used those because I just bought the pickle and made it simple. And then files. Files are pretty useful. These are just flat files, so you can kind of move things down. And then what I've done is I have a bench pin here. I kind of like this one. I didn't like it at first because I thought there's more angular ones. I can see why that one's really good. I do like some of the hole layouts in this one, so I've kind of mixed opinions on it. Because a lot of times they'll have kind of a more of a slant. But this one actually kind of some things I like about it. It has the round side here, and has the V side here, which I like. Anything else that I think that kind of is very helpful? What's the main thing starting out? You know, obviously there's the buffer and those kind of things that allow it, polishing. But if you're just trying to start out and you just want to kind of just play with it, because you can use sandpaper and you can use smaller material, you can use those kind of things. There are the more complicated things, but I think that gives a easy start out to creating kind of a simple little ring. And one other thing things that I've found that I find helpful. So I have a kind of a cheaper anvil, but I also have just the anvil little. I think this is a 4x1 steel plate, and then I have a little rubber underneath it, so I can put it down and hammer on stuff right in front of me really easily without moving to the larger one over here. That's really helpful. I have this birdlight stuff if you do use a saw blade, and from what I've read, it helps make it easier to saw. I will say the more expensive saw blades that I've bought, the first ones that came with the saw were pretty expensive. I did spend more and bought some of the ones that were on the website, the Rio, and they definitely are superior from what I'm using, and they're much easier to use. Other simple tools is kind of a spacer scribe. I forget exactly what they're called. This is really nice because you can kind of mark material. I have some other tools, but we'll get into those later. A pair of either metal snips. I use this to cut the solder because you see a little chunk that you'll see that later. What else do we think is nice? So what I do like here is I just have a kind of a block here. So let's put this back. So this is actually just like a block of stone. And I just have this up here because it's heat resistant, obviously. And so when you're doing the soldering, that's actually the thing I do need. The soldering, you need something that reflects the heat back, and that's what this is for. So it doesn't absorb the heat, it kind of reflects it because it doesn't absorb it. And I would say this makes a huge difference. You kind of see stuff, you're like, oh, that's kind of, I can get around without it. Worth its money, I think it was $20. This, if you're doing a lot of stuff and you want to solder, a solder block, this is worth its money for sure. But I put that on top of this, and that way I'm not burning anything because I'm just working at home office, so I've kind of limited space, but I want to make sure I don't burn anything down because, well, that sucks, and it's also dangerous. But what I found is that this this cloth here has some texture, and it kind of sticks to the files. So sometimes when I'm doing stuff, I'll take the file and it doesn't move when I'm standing on it. So I can either hold it, but I found that for doing smooth stuff like that, it's actually quite good. Just putting the file down, and I kind of like that, especially for doing other things. Other things that are pretty helpful that make your life easier are tweezers. So this is a ring tweezer. It holds on one side. You can, for certain types of settings and stuff. But the main ones I use so far are the auto clamping ones, and those just, you have to push them open so they hold things automatically. These ones are very useful for soldering. Also, these like copper ones I like because I use these ones so I drop things into the acid bath and that kind of stuff. So I feel like these work pretty good. These ones have the little wood handle on them. Let's see. So we have the wood handle ones. We have the copper ones. These are a little set. This is another pair of the auto locking ones. These ones just don't have the angle on them, so they're just a little different style. And then we have another pair of these metal ones, which are also quite nice for just grabbing things. I use this one a lot too. So those are kind of the main tools that I've really started using this last little bit, learning the materials. You know, it's a little bit of investment, but I have found that I do a lot of work professionally in video. Sometimes spending the extra money at the beginning is definitely worth it. Doesn't always feel like it, but it does make your life easier. Like I said, the pliers are one I'm like, I probably should have spent more. That's okay. I will buy some more, and those are just good backups. Sometimes you just need something you can kind of mar and not worry about it. And I'm probably gonna get a pair of parallel pliers. And so the parallel ones versus this has an angle here. So technically you're putting more force here than you are here. They have the parallel pliers that clamp it evenly. So I'm probably gonna buy 2 pairs of those to help with aligning things. I feel like that is probably one of the ones that I want to invest in next. Then I just did a basic shop light here. This is like a Home Depot little light, turn on and off, just to give my workspace a little bit of lighting. Obviously I have my lighting for the studio for the lighting and make it look nice. But the basic lighting here is just so I can see things clearly. I do turn this one off when I'm soldering. You'll see that because I like seeing the flame and the heat and the color. What else? I think that covers everything. This bit is I do have the polisher over here. That was about $75. Definitely worth it to create, the really nice polish on the rings in the end, but not a necessity. You can definitely do things by hand. It just makes things go by a lot faster. But that's kind of my breakdown of things I'll be using, and I hope I leave you with something with that. Hope I left you with some knowledge and learning, and I hope you have an excellent day. Thank you.